This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com.
And by Ting.com. Head over to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 28, Episode 5. My name is Chris.
My name is Matt.
Good morning to you, Matt.
Morning.
Are you ready to let the folks know about the big show we got planned?
Big time.
All right, so coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, in the second half of the show, we're going to discuss, potentially for the last time, our thoughts on Ubuntu Edge, why that initiative failed, and perhaps maybe the message users are trying to send to developers.
Kind of our final thoughts, if you will.
Yeah. And then in the /Etsy segment, we're going to talk about BitMessage, which promises to finally replace email with a system that is secure by default. However, it just recently suffered an attack this last week, and it does have some downsides, but I'm going to give you an overview of BitMessage, how you can get started, and my thoughts on it so far after using it for a couple of months. We've also got your emails, the news, of course, and then first, it's our picks. Woo! All right, first, it's our Runs Linux. This came in via the subreddit.
I love this one. This is so
I want
cool.
one of these
I want
already.
One bad. Yeah.
It is the crazy file, Nanocopter, runs Linux. And specifically, I believe the control systems run Linux. Now, for you audio listeners, picture something smaller than a Raspberry Pi with 4 struts coming off of it and then helicopter blades, little helicopter blades.
A mandatory addition that I think they did not consider when they put this together is they don't have any speakers attached to it blasting the Airwolf theme song. Why is that not there?
Maybe you could work Bluetooth into it somehow.
That's necessary.
Now, I want to play a video. It's not exactly audio friendly, but it's a great video of this thing in action. And if you watch closely, you actually get to see the Linux there too. So play a little bit of this and check out how awesome it is, and then we'll chat some more about it. And by the way, they promote its stability. In this first clip right here, they've got a fan blowing, and the little guy can just fly right around, corrects himself automatically.
See, and I see camera attached to that.
And they can throw it in the air. Open source code.
Oh, yeah.
See the Linux? That's Mint, I think, right there.
Yeah,
I think that's Mint. And the control software, real-time control software, brings back in like all of the gyroscopic information
and that's Linux
into a GTK app there. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so here you go. Look.
They got a camera.
They got a camera on it, Matt. Look at this.
Speakers.
And they're flying around. This is a live video feed that's feeding back to a Linux box. And look, he's flying it around using a game controller. Look at that precision.
Where do I? Okay, I want one. I'm sold. I want one.
I know. Look, it's only like $180 too, or something.
Do they have this on Amazon? Because I'm wish listing this. I'm telling you.
Okay, so
oh my God, I would play the hell
so
out of
they have inductive charging for it, which is brilliant. And so watch this. They'll land it. Well, I guess they don't, but they can. You could land it on an inductive charger.
That's what all that right there.
How cool is that?
Oh,
yeah,
dude.
using the old Palm charger for the. That looks like the original Nexus. Okay, watch this. This is the last one I want to show you. Flying LED light bulbs. This.
Dude. UFO. You want to like freak somebody out right outside their window? Woo!
Like get a whole bunch of these for Halloween. Or the feds could use this too. That's a little freaky,
totally.
but.
Oh, you can use it as countermeasure. I'm saying.
I thought this was really cool. And because it's open source, they were showing like, well, you could use it to work in coordination with a Linux box and have camera tracking features.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh yeah. So
really powerful stuff. So neat. And I just like I love the idea that
I love everything about it.
They're building it using Linux.
The price doesn't make me run out of the room screaming. The charging is awesome. You got a camera. You need speakers, but we can work that out.
Yeah, they're claiming 180 bones.
I mean, I'll tell you, I could find absolutely nothing productive to do with it, but man, I'd have a good time.
It's a kit. Looks like you build it yourself, but doesn't look
the way
too
it should
tough.
be.
Oh, okay. So it's got a little USB remote. Look at that. You see the little antenna there? It looks like you put that in your Linux box to control it. I mean, my kids would love this.
This is what you get kids excited about tech with, right?
Plus, especially, and when you have Linux in the mix. Yeah. Plus, well, imagine like, imagine like we're sitting out here in the studio and I hear a bunch of noise up there, and I'm like, well, let's send the quadcopter. Let's go see what it's doing. What are you kids? If you could put a little speaker on there, what are you kids doing? That'd be great. The parenting potential here is huge. Oh well, there's all kinds of potential, but and then if you build a bigger one. Maybe you could have it deliver pizza. That's always been my dream.
I do believe Google Domino's drone.
Yeah, they're working on it.
Yeah, I thought that.
They have like a project.
Yeah.
I know. Drones are going to usher in the police state, but they're also going to bring in a revolution to delivery food. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
And here's the real takeaway for me. Yeah, all this stuff, but you don't have to tip a drone. I'm just going to put that out there.
Good point. Good point. Although, you wonder, like maybe eventually, what if they get personalities?
Oh, weird.
I know that would be weird.
No,
but
Dave,
as long as
you're
I
not.
get if I get a Thai food delivery drone, I'm set.
Yeah, I could handle that actually.
All right, man. We got some other stuff
Cool.
that I swear is right out of the future for our picks this
Cool.
week. But first, I want to
first?
stop and thank our first sponsor, GoDaddy.com.
Wow, yeah.
And I was talking to Secret Agent D this weekend, and it turns out, and I was not even aware, this is a physics thing. I'm not a
Okay.
big physics guy.
Neither am I.
It turns out, when a vehicle, certain vehicles, I think it's like an options package, travels faster than 88 miles per hour, it actually can travel through time.
Interesting.
I did not know this.
Flames
and I'm laughing. I'm like, sure, Agent Dan, D. How? Yeah. What are you throwing junk in this reactor to power the time machine? Right. She says no.
No.
When listeners and viewers of the Linux Action Show use the code Linux249 to check out to get a .com for $2.49, that initiates a subatomic reaction in the GoDaddy servers, which resonates with a special crystal that is in the fusion reactor in her time machine and enables her to travel through time and save us all from catastrophes.
Well,
So-
see there's your motivation.
I'm just saying, by using the code Linux249 when you check out GoDaddy.com, you are literally saving the universe.
and you're doing your part to support time travel.
I mean, there's a reason why Agent
D.
not related, but there's a reason why Danica is on the front page when you visit the link. When you use that link in our show notes, Agent Danica, I'm getting all mixed up now. But somebody has set up a super express checkout pathway. You click on that, you get a nice, clean, laser-focused checkout process. You're in, you're out, and you get your .com for $2.49 by clicking the link on our show notes. It auto-tags that savings code for you.
And there's time travel. Really
Well,
drive that home. That's awesome.
I'm not sure if I was actually supposed to say that. I can't remember.
Whoops.
But let's just say subatomic reactions, resonance crystals, fusion chambers, saves the Earth. Maybe more than the Earth. I just can't say more than that.
First two.
So check it out. Thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. And also, if it's your first order, you can use the code GO32OFF2 for something new, and you'll save 32%. Throw a bunch of stuff in that cart.
Throw a bunch of stuff in there and really
Boom!
stack up those savings.
Pow.
It is.
You know what? If you guys are familiar with math and you do the math,
I've heard of math.
you save more by putting more in there. That's weird. That's weird, but
Math,
it's how it works.
time math.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it is.
Ooh, I see the correlation.
So thanks to Special Agent D for saving the universe and getting us .coms for crazy cheap.
Yeah.
Who knew? Linux 249. Thanks to GoDaddy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Awesome.
All right, Matt. I'm going to show you an Android app that is definitely from the future. It's not fully materialized yet, at least not for Linux. I don't know. Maybe
It's
it works.
getting there. It's a work in progress. Yeah.
But
it's still pretty cool.
I want to cover it because if it does work for you, it is really cool. And I suspect it would work better Android to Android than Linux to Android.
I'm thinking probably.
Don't know, but we're going to give it a shot.
Sure.
It's called Cheapcast. Cheapcast turns any Android device into a Chromecast for free. Nice. So you know that functionality that Google has developed, that little 35 dongle unit they're claiming runs Chrome OS when actually it runs Linux and just runs a binary, but for some reason Google doesn't want to admit the fact that they're using Linux, that product? Well, you can get all the functionality of that product by using Android and installing Cheapcast. Cheapcast registers on your network as a service, and then you install the Chromecast browser extension into Chrome, just like you would if you're going to talk to a regular Chromecast, right? So let me demo it for you here, Matt.
Okay.
If would you?
I would like to see this demo happen. I'd like to see it materialize.
I have had the best success so far, although it's supposed to work with your tab in your Chrome browser or any site, really, I guess. But I have had the best luck with the YouTube.
Okay.
Okay. So here I am over on the YouTube, and if you look at my Chrome screen, and I'll bring it down here for you a little bit, there is a little button in my Chrome, and it sees my Cheapcast on my HTC One right there. So you know it's talking on the network. You know the two are seeing each other.
That's doing what it needs to do.
Yep, and I can launch. You have to first launch Cheapcast on the Android device, and it starts a little service, and it gets it running. And
That makes sense. Keeps you from getting a battery drain.
super easy to turn on, turn off. You can also, there is an option to have it turn on at boot by default if you want. Not enabled by default, which I prefer.
I would prefer that.
Yeah. So you see it's right there. I don't even have it checked. But you set your network name, you start the service, and then you go into your web browser. And once everything's all been detected, you'll notice this. And this is why I think one of the reasons why it works better on YouTube videos is in the YouTube player window here, where you have all your regular play controls. Next to the full screen button is a new button. It says Select Screen.
Oh, yeah.
You click that, and then there's Cheapcast HTC One. So let's give it a shot. It's hit and miss under Linux right now, but I'm going to hit play on this episode of TechSnap, and then I'm going to go to the Cheapcast button, and I'll hit it. And then you'll see there it says connecting to Cheapcast on HTC One. Now, what has happened over on my HTC One is the YouTube app has launched.
Oh, that's so
and it has loaded the correct video title there. So you see it's got
the titling in there. It's got the.
However, The video has not started playing
Couple bumps
yet.
there?
Yeah, no video. If I hit play, no. Yeah, see, for some reason, it's hit and miss on this part of it. I've only actually had this work once for me. And I wonder if I was on another Android device watching a video and then could screen
I
cap.
bet that would probably do it.
Yeah.
I'll bet that probably work a lot.
Or if I was on a Windows box,
Oh,
it might.
yeah.
I don't
Could be.
know.
Could
Because
be.
I know the Chromecast functionality is a little crappy under Linux.
Sure.
But I like the potential, and I'm going to keep an eye on it because I like the idea. And you see, as soon as I turn it off here, it immediately returns on my machine. So the two are talking. Like if I
It's
hit
very
this,
AirPlay-like. I mean, it's very
it's
cool.
exactly. It's very AirPlay-like.
The way you toggle between machines, I like that. I think it's got a lot of potential. It'd be interesting to see where it develops over time. As you pointed out, though, it's very alpha, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe almost beta, depending on your experience.
Yeah.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, your mileage may vary. It also might depend on the resolution and size of the video. Like some videos might come over a little easier. I believe the way it's supposed to work is it's supposed to send a command to the Google servers, and then Google just kind of sends the location information and information to this phone and pushes it. It's not like it's actually transmitting the video from my laptop.
Right.
I believe it's actually supposed to be pulling it directly from YouTube. So I'm not sure why it's not playing.
Could be, and it could be the app itself. It's just a little young,
Yeah.
But it's getting
It
there,
is,
and
yeah.
it's got a lot of really cool potential.
Cheapcast, and it is free. You can load it up and see how it works for you. It's got really good ratings. I bet a lot of these people are using that stupid Windows operating system.
Probably, undoubtedly.
I'm not familiar with it, but
No, that stuff works. But
it even, which is incredible, is it supports devices below Android 4.0. It's 2.2 and up, which is really kind of impressive when you think about the functionality they're doing there. Here's a little video demo of it.
Okay, cool.
So the guys,
Yeah,
so he's doing Android to Android.
and I think that's the key. I
Yeah,
betcha.
that's working. Who does only Android devices?
Yeah. Although I guess I could see it to tablet. It's kind of a proof of concept.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so there you go. Neat enough, right, Matt? Neat enough. So
Yep.
that's Cheapcast, and like the name says, it's free. Not that the $35 Chrome console
Yeah.
thingy's that much, but maybe you want to send video to something else.
A little
And
push here. Yeah.
I think pretty soon we're going to see Cheapcast little client servers. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't it be
It's going to
cool?
become a standard, I think.
you know, what'd be really awesome is to see. This would be crazy, but there's no. I don't think there's any reason VLC couldn't incorporate
They could.
like a Cheapcast receiver and sending, right? Because I think it's all an open protocol and
Well,
standard.
theoretically, you could just call some supplier up in China and white label some stuff, right?
Just say, hey, we're gonna build this
The
into.
Jupiter Broadcasting dongle.
Oh, there you go, a JB dongle. All right, Matt.
Go.
So something else kind of Jupiter Broadcasting related. We've talked about it in Linux Unplugged, our new show.
Yeah.
Haven't talked about Mumble very much in this show, but Mumble is our desktop pick this week. Mumble is an open source, low latency, high quality voice chat software. Works on Windows, works on the Wozniak computers, and it also works on the GNU/Linux, which is where I'm running it today. So, Arbulus set us up a hosted Mumble server to integrate in with Linux Unplugged, our new show. And so on linuxunplugged.mumble.com, you can connect in. And I should have gone in there and warned these people they're going to be on air.
Surprise!
Let's go in there and see.
Yeah.
Hello, is anybody in here? Hello. I don't think I have anybody. I didn't tell anybody. But
Yep.
so we have this Mumble lobby right here that is just kind of available all the time now as like a hangout spot for Jupiter Broadcasting member audience. It's just available all the
Kind of
time.
like, just as you said, a lobby. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have these on-air channels and a staging channel. And what we're going to do in Linux Unplugged is you and I will hang out in the on-air channel. And, well, actually, just the studio will hang out in the on-air channel. And then we'll have an operator in the staging channel. They'll come in, they'll screen people, make sure their mics are working, and then move them in the on-air channel for when we're doing open
That's
discussions.
going to be awesome because it's
Yeah.
going to keep the fluidity of the show going as well as make sure that everybody is ready and set and been kind of pre-qualified.
Yeah, exactly. It's super easy to set up, too. Like, I'll walk you through the audio wizard, although I probably shouldn't do this because I'm probably going to screw up all my settings.
Well, it's not going to use.
But it's very easy to choose your audio device, and then it's got you've got it'll walk you through like echo test to make sure that your audio is working properly and stuff. It's a very nice UI.
Reminds me of
a
I'm just going to call it No Meeting because I can't pronounce the other name. But yeah, it's very much the very similar setup wizard to that. I
yeah.
think.
And you can swap in different codecs. There's encryption support. It's open source, obviously, and we're rolling with it now for
It's got
the
echo cancellation and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Enabled positional.
yeah.
audio.
It even does, and I was
Wow.
positional audio. So you can have if you have
Whoa.
3D headphones, you can have people
Yeah.
in different.
That
spaces.
would be whoa.
Yeah.
That's
The other thing that's really cool that it supports is the ability to duck audio. And I thought at first I was having issues with that, but I
nice.
wasn't. So if you're like watching a podcast, for example, or a live stream or playing some music, when somebody talks on the Mumble chat room, Mumble will automatically bring down the audio of the other applications.
Almost down to a mumble.
And see, that way you can clearly hear the people speaking, right, on Mumble. And then when they're done speaking, it brings the other application audio back up.
See, that's a nicety that I think is missing in a lot of stuff. I would love to see that in more applications, actually.
It feels like a pretty polished app at this point. It's been around for a while. Yeah. We haven't talked about it much, but it really, it is. I had focused more on TeamSpeak.
Yeah, that's where most of my familiarity is.
Yeah. There's also Android apps available, so I've got a Mumble Android app.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm going to turn off my Cheapcast server. Yeah. So, and the Mumble app works really well, too. And then your Android device, since it already has a built-in microphone and speaker, is a pretty good little chat client.
Oh, that's so slick. Slick!
Yeah, so that's Mumble, and that is our desktop pick of the week. And you can grab it. And then I've got the linuxunplug.mumble.com server info in the show notes. And the port, by the way, 6394. If you want to join us in chat. Especially on Mondays. Monday afternoons during Linux Unplugged, we're going to be in there chatting with folks.
It's like the chat room, but with voices.
Which makes better for an audio podcast.
It does. It
really
kind of lends itself, right?
Lends itself quite well, Matt.
Yes.
All right. Little community initiative that we are kicking off this week in the big show. It's all going to circle back. Going to circle back, but there's a hot topic this week. Well, really the last 10 weeks.
I was going to say, it's been a while.
It's been boiling. Rolling your own email server, getting your own private email server solution. It's a massive project. There's about 100 different ways to slice that pie, and there's different packages out there. There's different things you should think about. There's ways to set up your DNS. There's ways to set up your spam. There's ways to do it when you're at home on a consumer connection. There's ways to do it on VPS hosting. So many different things to consider when rolling your own email server that we have launched a community wiki over on the Linux Action Show subreddit. Brand new. I just set it up like yesterday.
Yeah, it was pretty recent.
Yeah, and it's totally empty. We need some people, who love to get in on some of this stuff, and people who are working on this kind of stuff, researching this kind of stuff, to get in there and add stuff to this. Because what I want to build, because one of the questions we get on the show a lot is, how do I roll my own email server? I want to build a massive resource for the show and for the community, something that in the chat room we can link people to, in the show we can link people to, and I'd love it to be something that continues to get updated as new technologies come out. For example, MailPile's under development right now. Perhaps when MailPile is complete, this wiki could be updated to reflect options there. Just kind of things like that we can all as a community use as a resource. So as people decide to start doing this, one of the unique opportunities we have is the best tools for the job, and the best software out there runs on Linux.
That's true.
And people are going to be coming to Linux to try to solve this problem. And a lot of them will come through this show, because a lot of people looking for this kind of stuff find our show.
Let's port forward
kind of our
newcomers to our new wiki.
Exactly. Let's show them this resource, and we have a great community here. And I called it in the subreddit. I made a sticky post. I said, let's combine, last Redditors, it's time we combine our powers for good. And I'm not even really kidding. This is a major problem. People want to take back their privacy, and they want to control their email, and they want to own their data now. They're retracting from these proprietary, closed, cloud-hosted systems, and they want to move to open-source systems that are under their control. This is huge. This is a major tidal shift, and I'd love the Linux Action Show to help people accomplish this goal. So please, check out the wiki. We'll have it linked in the show notes. Contribute anything you can. It's a total blank slate right now. It needs the community. And what I would love to have happen is in a week or two, I would love to take some of the best elements of that wiki and do a super in-depth, potentially multiple-part episode series on Linux Action Show on rolling your own mail server. And we need a good resource where a lot of people have weighed in to whittle down to the best elements of this.
Because I think that's the real missing component, is there are a variety of, here's how you make a mail server type situations, but they're either half done, dated, they only have one approach, they're missing major components of things you're not considering, they're not looking at all circumstances. That's why coming up with something all-inclusive this way would be really beneficial.
Yeah, I'd love to get that rolling. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. It's also stuck to the very top of the Linux Action Show subreddit if you just want to head over there to look at it.
Super easy to find. It's all green.
It's all green and big and obnoxious for at least a little bit longer. Yeah. All right, Matt, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Ting, Matt, is mobile. That makes sense, as you now know.
Oh, yes.
Matt is a new Ting customer.
And a very happy one at that, I would might add.
Yeah, you got a little service upgrade when you switched to Ting.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yes. Oh, man. Not only am I getting better signal strength where I happen to be located, which really I was really pleasantly surprised with it. But the phone that I'm using is just dynamite, thanks to Chris.
Oh yeah, the Note 2. You're loving that?
Oh, I'm loving it.
I
It's
know.
actually charging right now because I used it all yesterday.
It's a lot of screen. It's great for the weekend, you know, because
ridiculous
it's,
battery life too.
and the larger screen, you don't really realize, like, you can get a lot more done with that, and you can use it for a lot more things than you originally thought. Like you were mentioning, playing with security cameras and just watching them on
I got
the
a little
screen.
FOSS game, and I'm kind of playing with different apps and whatnot. It's very cool.
It is great, and when you combine it with a great mobile service like Ting, you've really got a great mix. Now, Ting has no contracts, no early termination fees, no bundling of ride-along services. It's nothing unexpected like that. And what I really think you're going to be impressed by is the way they do their rates. They break your rates up by minutes, text message, megabytes, and then they'll just bill you at the end of the month for whatever bucket that you end up falling into. You can go on their site and you can kind of plug around and kind of see, like for me, I use voice over IP 98% of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I use Google Voice for my text messaging. But I do use a lot of data. So, you know, my bill usually around $33 or so. It can be even less than that if you use less. This is,
and I think mine's like 16, something like that.
Yeah.
It's real reasonable.
And if you go to last.ting.com, you can save $25 off your first month of service or your first device. But here's something, this just shows you what's so awesome about Ting, is Ting has just launched a personal shopper.
Oh, nice.
This is the easiest way to find a used Sprint device that you can just bring onto Ting. Now, you think about when they're giving you a $25 credit, some of these refurbished devices are like $35, $40. You know, the range, depending on what you want.
Sure.
They've got a little easy form. You just go over to their personal shopper form. You tell Ting what kind of device you're looking for, and then they will scour the web and all of their used sites and all of the resources that they're familiar with to find refurbished, high-quality Sprint devices that work on Ting. They'll just find one for you and notify you, hey, we have found a compatible Ting device that you could bring over. And if you visit last.ting.com, you're going to get $25 off that device.
In addition to the personal shopper action. That's really cool.
Ting has a really cool work ethic. These people over there,
They seem to get it.
well, and they're really active in their customer base. Like, they're active in their forums. They're involved in the community. And the other thing is they hire people to help who really are passionate about cell phones and mobile technology. Check it out. Call 1-855-TING-FTW anytime between 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, and a real person will pick up the phone.
You've got to love that.
If you want to solve the problem yourself, they've also got an incredible knowledge base that'll do everything from, you know, maybe you just accidentally had a new ROM fall on your device and you need to reset up all your MMS stuff. They've got instructions for that. If you want to save money on your mobile like I'm doing by utilizing Google Voice, they've got tons of information about that. They let you deep dive,
cool.
or they'll just take care of it for you with representatives that are empowered to solve your problem. You can check out help.ting.com for a little example of their online database. Go check them out. You're going to get included hotspot and tethering with every Ting plan. You only pay for what you use, and you've got no contract to worry about. I love it. Go to last.ting.com and check out what Matt and I are raving about.
That's right.
And thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Awesome. Love it.
Okay, Matt.
Woo!
So I wasn't sure if I was going to cover this first story,
Yeah.
but I felt like...
We got to pay homage with our, our heartfelt,
And
whatever
the
the hell it
things
is.
this man has said over the years have made it into the show. So let's go with it. Steve Baumler announces that he'll be retiring within 12 months. No, we don't mean to pick.
Oh, no, we're kidding.
That was a happy dance, yes. But
We wish him a happy, fulfilled, great retirement.
I mean, let's be clear. This
Enjoy
man is going to be well off for the rest of his
Sure.
life. He's not suffering. I do feel for him because I believe this is not exactly his decision. And, he's been there practically the majority of his life now, since the 80s at least. So it's very, I'm sure there's a lot of emotional stuff there.
Sure.
And honestly, Microsoft is a ship without a rudder these days, and I'm not sure who could come in and step in.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say they need a complete redesign on their culture. That's really the core where the problem is. And so whoever comes in needs to come from a healthy, very successful company, Google, something like that.
Ooh.
That could
maybe they could hire Marissa Meyer. I hear that.
She's she's for sale.
So I also
Yeah.
I've thought this. I mean, everybody has thought this. I'm not some genius.
No,
Everybody has thought this for years. Can I tell you what I was kind of?
I want to know.
I was kind of hoping they'd keep him for a couple more years. You know what I'm talking? You know what I'm saying? Because I want, let him just wreck the place.
Essentially, he's going to take a Kirk's dad into the other ship. Is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly.
He means well. He's being heroic and all that, but
Yep.
he's going to totally, not in a literal sense, but in a philosophical sense. with the company.
I was kind of banking on just getting to sit back and finally watch that company wither away into irrelevancy.
Although it may do it on its own.
Well, I think it will.
It's
but
pretty deep rooted. Yeah.
if there was anything that would probably stop that, it would probably be replacing Ballmer. And it'll be curious to see where they go. they say they want to double down on the device and services aspect of Microsoft.
Which is the wrong. See, this is what escapes me, and I've said it so many times. That one thing they do, and they do well, and I'm not going to deny this, is they do enterprise well.
Yeah.
They just do.
Yeah.
Stop all the rest of it.
They do those relationships. They get pushed around by big customers just the way big customers like. They keep compatibility for a long time, which introduces massive security issues. But, again, big customers like that. Yeah. And their slowness, their glacier-like approach to things is exactly what the enterprise wants.
Yeah, exactly. Enterprise, Xbox, you're done with the rest
Them
of it.
and IBM should just go sing Kumbaya together.
Yeah. Problem solved.
But there you go. I don't know if I have much more other than it's just kind of.
Yeah,
I was surprised when I saw it.
Oh, I wish the man well in his retirement. I've no quarrels there. I'm just ecstatic that he's not leading an important company anymore.
Yeah,
I have nothing against him personally, but on a business level, he makes me cringe.
It is interesting to go back. You can find lots of YouTube videos of how wrong he was about basically every category.
Well, and of course, that commercial he did in the 80s, that still remains my all-time favorite. If you guys haven't seen it, look up, I think, YouTube Balmer early 80s commercial or something like that. You'll know it when you see the jacket. You'll understand.
Yeah.
Good times.
Well, so there you go. It is a moment now. The question is who will replace him.
This is where Microsoft needs to pick a pivotal turn. Stop hiring within. That's your problem. A lot of the promoting within is not going to work for you guys.
They've gotten rid of a lot of
any talent they had. They got rid of really. I mean, they had some pretty good people leave, so they need to really start.
What's
looking.
that? Scott Forstall.
Yeah,
he's looking for a job.
Yeah,
Scott Forstall could go work there.
There you go. Sure.
All right, let's start talking about some Linux. There was some GNOME 3.10 sightings over the week. GNOME 3.10 is under development right now, under active development, you might say, man. Oh, good, my Chrome extension self-updated automatically for me.
That's important.
What I like is that it does it without checking with me.
Absolutely, because why would you want to know about things like that?
And during a show.
Sure.
Anyway, so back in reality here. So GNOME 3.10 under development right now, and one of the things that they've worked on, man, I'm sure you've been really excited about this, is they've tweaked the system status menu.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Yeah.
This addresses what I'm sure was a number of complaints about the previous status menu, and read number of complaints to be bug the developers, and the username was taking up too much space before. I mean, I do appreciate it. Really,
I appreciate the fact they're trying, but it's sometimes after a while, it just kind of becomes glacier-like. I don't know. Okay.
Now here is an example. So one of the things they're working on in GNOME is when you maximize a window, the title bar and stuff will go up into that main bar along the top. They call it the header bars, and they're going to use them instead of traditional title bars.
I call it Unity. I don't know.
Like, for example, yeah, it is. Yeah. For example, so, like, here's on my machine, here's Nautilus, right?
Yeah,
and I've got, I don't know if I have a white shot.
Sure.
So now if I maximize this, you see how that top bar goes away?
Right.
Now, right now, I can't do anything right here.
Which is obnoxious.
Right. In GNOME 3.10, this files menu will be an actual menu that drops down with the stuff that I'm missing, I believe, from this.
Okay. Well, and that was something that is important and should never have been messed with in the first place to cause the, whatever.
Right. All right. So moving on. The Systems Control Center has gotten some decent tweaking.
Yeah.
Here's a good example of like the new display control. To me, this is just too minimal.
Wow, that's some. I mean, do they not? I don't know who does their designs, but are you asleep? I mean, I'm not trying to rag on you, but I mean, come on, try a little bit.
It's very minimal. It's very minimal, right?
That's being kind. It looks like butt cheeks, man. It's horrible. Like
it looks like somebody took a UI designer, drug out 2 UI elements, dropped them in the middle of that UI designer, put some buttons on it, and said, "Okay, good. As long as I got a good theme, it's beautiful."
I guess I'll throw out minimalist as a kind.
I mean, I know we're being hard, but then to get even a little harder here, I also think it's ridiculous that one of the other. Now, this is just going to be a preview release. Is a Maps app, a map. Oh, this is actually the time zone application.
Oh, okay.
They're working on a Maps app. It's called GNOME Maps. It'll be a preview in 3.10. Yeah, I don't know. There's already a GNOME mapping application out there for the desktop. So they're sort of recreating something that's already been created by the community. And I think, again, this kind of thing only makes sense in the context of a touch device, because I don't really need this on a desktop.
And I think that's where they're probably going with it. I'm going to throw out the benefit of the doubt and say there is a very important reason for them to do this that I'm just not aware of, and that I'm just being a jerk for not liking it.
Yeah.
But without me, now if there isn't, why? I mean,
that's got to be what it is. It's got to be that you and I are not conceiving of the use case where I would want, and let's be clear, it's not just a redundant Maps application in the desktop. It's going to be a Maps application that has, just because of the resources involved, less functionality than every other online Maps application.
It's like essentially you're creating the Windows Phone of apps, or maps rather.
At best, if it uses OpenStreetMaps, it'll be at best at least the raw data will be that good. But the rendering, the presentation, I mean, it's not going to compete. It's probably not even going to compete with Apple Maps. Let's be honest.
No. That's and that's a map that'll have you driving off a cliff. So I mean, if you can't do better
But
than that.
it looks like it does do traffic. That's nice. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I wouldn't just do that in my web browser.
Yeah, it's like I've got Android on a tablet or a phone and I can run Waze. I mean, I don't know. I just
Maybe like the chat room is saying, maybe if you could go into the now you can't tell because the UI is so clean, but maybe if you click that little gear button, click not touch, but if you click that little gear button, maybe there's like a cache offline.
Could be. And another thing I got to remember
carry
too
around
is
their
that it's
computers
not all
with
about the States. It's not all about the U.S. That there's a whole wide world out there that may actually need this.
Yeah, maybe.
And so I'll throw that out there.
Yep.
Then that makes sense.
Yep.
That's okay.
Of course, they're showing Boston.
Yeah. So that's where you kind of lose me. Show me some areas that are really lacking in this area. And it's like, okay, I can get behind it, but I'm not seeing that, man.
I just don't know.
I don't know.
Now we've been hard,
Yeah.
but there's actually a lot of other good stuff in the works, like a completely redesigned tweak tool, a new note-taking application.
Good stuff.
And support for high DPI displays, which is probably...
That's probably the biggie.
Yeah. So it's not all just fluff, but
No.
I look at this and I go, as a GNOME, I'm currently using GNOME because KD wouldn't log in this morning. Go figure. And
Date and time, I'm fine with. I mean,
I just look at this and I go, there is none of this. I couldn't give a crap about any of it. Couldn't give a crap.
See, and I'm okay with the minimalist thing. I'm a minimalist guy. I'm fine with that. But some of it's just like the I don't know. It's like they're not trying, or they don't have a designer, or they just I don't know. I don't know what.
Or
I'm trying to understand the
I guess
rationale
what
without sounding like
what
a
it
jerk,
honestly feels
but,
like is the hard stuff is too hard,
Yeah.
and this is the easy stuff.
Are they dancing around, not mimicking someone else? I mean, I don't know what the challenge. I'm trying to understand the challenge. Yeah.
Why a Maps application?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to harp on it, but why? I just don't understand. Like, there's so many other solutions out there. There's already GNOME applications that are already developed.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Come on, GNOME guys. I want to like your product. I really do. Katie's really pissed me off lately, so I really want to like what you're doing, but I'm not following the flow, and so help me.
It's all right. I mean,
Help me.
I don't
Hold
mean
me
to be
back.
negative. I'm sure when I 2 years down the road, all of this stuff is going to seem minor. It's all going to be nice to haves, and it's going to be a great desktop. But right now, it just seems so. I don't know.
Well, in hindsight, I think it's great that we have so many choices that I get to gripe about them, and that's awesome.
I guess so.
So I look at it from that. I'm going to try and positive spin this.
All right.
I have so many choices out there. I can complain.
That's a good fanboy line. I'll go with it.
Sure.
All right. So Phronix points out too, though, this might actually be a great feature. GNOME 3.10 also will continue to push ahead with a Wayland support. It's not fully baked yet, but new GTK Plus, Mutter, and GNOME Shell development releases in the recent days continue to advance GNOME 3.10 support for Wayland. GNOME Shell 3.9.90 as of right now will actually is working on the Wayland compositor. And since last week, GNOME Display Settings now works on Wayland, so you can configure your display settings on Wayland. And Mutter 3.9.90 has a dbus API for the display configuration and an abstraction layer for cursor tracking.
See, and all this tells me is that the GNOME guys are like, Matt, we're really wanting to see you in that monkey suit, so we're gonna work with all the distributions going Wayland, and we're really going to concentrate on making this desktop environment go Wayland.
I would be curious to see where the origination of things like that Maps application and redefining the system setting menu for the 90th time. I'd like to see who works on those versus who works on the Wayland stuff. And are all the, now I'm just making horrible jackass assumptions here, but are all of the people working on the Wayland stuff coming from Red Hat, and all of the people working on the Maps application coming from somewhere else? Maybe that's why we see these weird disconnects. Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Yeah,
don't know.
Mapaday.
Mapaday.org.
Yeah. All right.
MapQuest.
So speaking of Wayland, just a quick little sub note here. Wayland and Weston 1.21 have been released, moving right along.
Oh, yeah.
The Xorg Foundation also lost their nonprofit status this weekend. Because,
Ouch. That's got to hurt.
Yeah, because they're developers. They're not really guys meant to work on their taxes. I read a quote from the guy who was working on their taxes like, oh, well, that was why you had a problem. Some good news, a game we've talked about on the big show. I'll probably talk about it again when it actually hits, but Natural Selection 2 is showing up in Steam. So if you want to buy it, you can. It won't work. You're going to get an executable not found when you run it. However, it should be available on the 30th of this month for play on Linux. Now, remember, this is the game where you can play as either like a Marine or the alien.
Absolutely, and that's a compelling thing. So I think once this is released and no longer a really sexy-looking airbox, it's going to be really fun to play.
$25 out of the gate is what they're saying for the price. Not too bad for a first-class first-person. Here's a little video of it. Oh, cool.
That's some neato intros.
And the flash died.
That's important.
Well, that was it. Then the flash died.
Oh,
Oh,
Chrome.
Flash and Chrome. So,
Chrome.
anyways,
Yeah, blame somebody.
maybe we'll play Natural Selection 2 in a couple of days. It looks really cool. It's going to be out on Friday.
That would be
Sweet.
Oh yeah,
That's going to be good stuff.
good times.
Man, we are booking on the news today. We are booking. It's because we got a big show still
Big
ahead.
show.
Big show still ahead. Mailpile. We talked about Mailpile, and it is very relevant for today's topic. Mailpile is the pro-privacy open-source webmail project launched on Indiegogo, has hit its funding. In fact, it went over its funding, I believe. Let me go pull that up. Yeah, 115,000 out of 100,000.
So they make their funding, and Geary did not.
Did not, yeah.
Ooh. And I think I know why, but let's continue.
Well, so just as a reminder, a recap, a Mailpile is not a complete mail solution. It is a high-end webmail offering that will sit on top of the underlying mail system. But what's your theory?
That was it.
Oh,
That was I think
you can plug it in.
I think it's the fact that it's you're for one thing you're targeting a totally different class of people, someone that knows what the hell to do with it.
Yeah.
That probably helps. And usually those are the people with a little more spendable cash, and they have more of a vested interest to maybe slide it in something they're working on or something that they use that allows them to not completely change their client side stuff. So yeah.
So the other thing that I'm really curious about and how they're going to pull it off is the Mailpile team has tweeted that they're also going to integrate BitMessage support. So you could have one UI where you could be handling bit messages and emails, which could really help a transition to one technology or the other.
Hell, that would define.
Yeah, and of course the email side of Mailpile is going to have built-in elegant support for GPG encryption and things like that.
Yeah,
So I'm really excited. Mailpile will be open source. It sounds like they're going to have a hosted version of it and then one you can load yourself. So yeah.
Nice. I like that.
Chat room says your mic was...
Is my mic off or did I back up a minute?
I don't know.
Testing.
I didn't hear anything.
I think we're okay.
I didn't hear anything. But let us know if it keeps up.
Yep.
But anyways,
Cool.
Good news on the Mailpile project. Now, they're under active development right now, of course.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little while. I don't think it'll be in time for our roll your own mail server solution, but we can always revisit it when they hit.
And I'm okay with that simply because of the fact that, they're going to release it when it's time. It's going to work well, and you're going to get an experience that you really want. And so take your time, guys. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't wait to load it on my own box. I think that's really neat. I decided I became a backer, too, so I supported the project, yeah. And the campaign has gone 15,000 over.
15,000. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So keep an eye on that. We'll let you guys know as it starts getting some shipping free code. All right,
Cool.
Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. The Ubuntu Edge campaign wrapped up this week, and we've got some final thoughts. And maybe we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about the big picture and what it means for this whole mobile UI trend that developers have been pushing us towards as users. As just average users, Matt.
That's average.
But first, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System76, creators of machines designed to run in Chris's house.
Absolutely. And in mine. Mine too.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
I know.
I have some of them running.
There's basically not a System76 machine that I don't want. Even the servers, which we never really talk about on the show, but System76 makes some great servers that are used in education and all kinds of places. They are very well built, and just as part of their business, I don't know why we never mentioned them. I'd love to have one of these in my house.
Built for easy maintenance and expansion. Like that.
Now, System76 has got some great rigs. We had an email that came in this morning from a listener, Rob, who bought a Sable Complete for his son, his 5-year-old son.
That's a good buy.
And he mentions one of the things that he was really impressed with is, A, the screen, and B, this high-quality glass that they have on the screen makes it a lot safer for kids, because he's noticed with most traditional LCDs where they just have the, like that one there where it's just the mat and you can
I have those
poke
at
it.
home. I totally understand.
Kids ruin them. And with that glass protection on there, he says it keeps the screen safe, and then if they get some muggy fingers on there, just a little spray, cleans it right up.
Like that.
Sable Complete is great for the home, great for the family. They've got all kinds of rigs. One of the machines that I've been keeping an eye on because I really, really, really want it, I don't even have a good reason right now, but the Ratel Performance is, they just updated. It's got the Haswell CPU in there. Tons of power, and look at if you're watching the video version, you get an idea of how small this thing is compared to that big monitor there.
It is the perfect. See, this is what I envision it for. I want this thing as a media box so bad.
Oh yeah, actually, I think this would work really well too if we had one of these on each ends of the table.
Oh,
here,
right? Yeah, because they're very slimline.
And small, quiet. It's not going to make a bunch of noise that the mics are going to pick up, but tons of power. We're not going to be waiting when we're doing a live production.
That would be dynamite.
I really think this is a great machine, and since it's just been updated, this is definitely one to look at. The other thing I like about this is super high-quality fans and large fans. They don't make a ton of noise, but they move a lot of air. System76 pays a lot of attention to this. They build a complete package from end to end. It's not just a machine that they throw parts in. It is a complete product that they build from beginning to end to run Linux and run amazing for you in the long term.
right.
It's a huge aspect of these System 76 rigs is they run forever and they maintain that Linux compatibility. It really is impressive. Go check out System 76. Get a machine built to run Linux. Tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. So, and tell you know what, you guys, tell them, hey, I deserve it.
Absolutely.
I deserve
Throw
it.
on a good name for us.
Yeah, say
Totally.
my name is, like I say, if you were going to buy a machine, say my name is Matt. I heard about you on Linux
Yep.
Action Show. I deserve this.
Damn right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Thanks to System 76 for sponsoring this segment of the Linux Action
Wow.
Show. All right, Matt. So Ubuntu Edge wrapped up a pretty good showing, really,
They,
overall.
they set records.
They did.
Wow.
They drove a ton of traffic to Indiegogo as well. And they concluded at $12.8 million.
That's really admirable. And it's unfortunate that it didn't succeed for them, but it certainly supplied a lot of great news
Yeah.
for quite a while there. It's definitely
Got a
pretty
lot
cool.
of lot of people talking. A lot of people talking. But at the end of the campaign, it did fail to reach its goal.
They petered out, yeah. And surprisingly, and I'm really shocked by this, we didn't see someone who is not Mark come in at the last minute, some big company, some big mobile telco, come in and swoop in and say, yeah, we really want this to happen.
We did see that one Bloomberg purchase of 80,000.
And that was
impressive.
It was admirable, especially considering they're not necessarily in the mobile business directly. That was a very, they're still vested to a degree, but not so much.
In an interview on ZDNet, Shuttleworth points out that there were a couple of points in the last 2 weeks where we really thought a lot of relationships were going to play out and a big player might come in. He said that might have potentially bumped us to the goal, but we just couldn't get one of those to connect before the time ran out.
Okay.
So they were actually potentially talking to some big manufacturers to come in.
And that was something, and now that is one move I was not aware of that I do agree with them on. I think that was the right approach. They just needed to have done it sooner.
Yeah.
That's all.
So
Maybe before the campaign.
I thought maybe we could take a step back. And so first of all, did it fail because the campaign was just too crazy? Is that what happened?
It wasn't the amount that I see being the problem. I think that it was mismanaged from the beginning. I think the amount was reasonable. I think initially
Really?
the
You don't
passion.
think the amount was?
No, not at all. It's all about who you target. It's like you know this with clients. It's you get the clients you deserve. Really, you kind of have some selection there.
Yeah.
And so I think in this case they get the customers or the vested interest in this case, the investors that they deserved, and so they really targeted the community because that's what they wanted. And it blew up in their face because that's not really who they should have been targeting in the first place. Yes, to a degree, as a PR stunt, okay. Maybe for some of the money, the $12 million, for example. But for the rest of it, they needed to have, before this ever started, they needed to have had those corporations willing to invest, the telcos, on standby so they could do a big showing at the end.
So do you think the community? Do you think they overestimated the amount of money that was available in the community, or do you think it was they have burned too many bridges with the community over the last few years, specifically recently with Mir and things like that, that people just weren't willing? Because here's what I thought about it.
Okay.
So I did back it.
Sure.
But I don't totally know if I would have backed it if I wasn't. I think I might have just because that's my personality, but I don't know if I totally would have backed it if I wasn't doing the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think I think the reason why the community didn't throw in fully. I mean, 12 million is amazing, but
yeah, it's very impressive.
There was no working hardware to be shown, so you lose some people there. Not everybody, but you lose some people. It was a very high goal, so there's a psychological barrier there for some. Some people say, it's never going to make it, so I'm not going to fund it. And you also have to, and I don't know a nice way to say this, but I believe you have to call into question the credibility of Canonical and specifically Mark Shuttleworth. I think let's back up. Let's rewind the tapes. Unity was created several years ago as a one UI for all.
Right.
For the TV, for the tablet, for the phone. And then a few years later, we find out, not so true. Actually, we need to create Unity for the phone specifically. We need to create Unity for the TV specifically. We need to create Unity for the tablet specifically. And we need to create Unity for the desktop specifically. And oh, by the way, we need to rewrite all of them. All right, so that wasn't quite true. And meanwhile, Ubuntu TV has never shipped. Ubuntu phone has not shipped. A lot of these things that we've been promised have not shipped. So there's sort of a credibility issue there. Now, they're not necessarily all within Canonical's control for the reason they didn't ship, but at the end of the day, I've now gone on several years worth of promises and not actually seen anything but the desktop and cloud product ship, what they had originally.
Yeah, I'd say that to a passerby, it would kind of smell of vaporware a little bit. There's certainly that component.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's not that I've lost all faith in Canonical and Mark.
Sure.
But when you're asking me to bet my desktop, well, you know what? If you screw that pooch, I'll just load Arch. And that's what I did, right?
Exactly.
But when you're talking about my hard-earned $600, $700, there's a whole nother level of trust that I have to have in you, because it takes me a lot of work to earn that much fancy fiat currency. Like, I work really, really, really hard to get that.
Right.
And so if I'm going to give you $600 of my fancy fiat, I've really got to trust in A, that you're going to deliver, and B, in your vision. And I'm not so sure I believed in the convergence vision either.
Yeah, and see, that was my big, even if I had the cash at the time, which I did not, but even if I had the cash, my big thing is like, okay, Android's got some things that kind of irk me a little bit, but whatever. I'm invested in it. I'm generally happy with it. There's lots of selection. I have myself really embedded in this. Why am I doing this again? For a maybe kind of sort of might happen ecosystem, for a maybe kind of sort of might happen phone. There's a lot of questions there. And there's absolutely, the biggest component for me is there was no compelling reason to do it. I mean, who the hell cared? It didn't directly solve a problem. It created a new solution for a problem I didn't have.
Well, so here's what Mark says.
I don't get it.
Mark says that they were building a time machine, quote unquote. We could, what we thought we could take, we thought we could take a leap forward 2 or 3 years in terms of capabilities of today's phones through the edge. Now here's
with a wired dock.
Well, yeah.
I mean that's where his credibility.
I mean, there was
what?
Well, we haven't really picked a CPU.
No.
Okay, well the CPU kind of determines like a lot of the board. We haven't quite figured out how we're going to do a sapphire glass screen. We think another manufacturer is about to do it.
Yeah.
So I think Canonical is just kind of assuming that within a year that process will be figured out, but nobody's actually done it yet.
No,
so there's that. The battery is some fancy technology, but it's not quite clear.
It reminds me of that solar-powered laptop that people were kind of skeptical about. It's a lot like that in a lot of ways.
Also, I've never actually seen the convergence work. I mean, yes, I've seen a phone in a dock,
right,
and I've seen Unity on a big screen, but I've never seen dude typing a text message in the phone and then sitting it down in the dock and completing the text message using the keyboard, like having that UI scale correctly, or if it's a new application that launches, having to share that data. I haven't seen that demonstrated. I don't know if that code even exists, right? So there's these sort of aspects of it that don't exist. But I also think you're partially touching on it when you say, they're potentially saying that, well, here's this convergent solution, and you're sitting here saying, I didn't ask for that.
Yeah, that's really, sometimes that works. It certainly worked for, a lot of computer companies in the early 80s and things like that, to where they were creating things that we didn't know we needed yet. But at this point, really, I don't understand where my benefit is. And to insult me by not making this wireless out of the gate, you lost me.
It's got to be the tech, though.
It's like the whole thing of it is like, AirDroid. I'm sorry. The technology to do this stuff exists.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
You almost wonder if they couldn't do like you put it down and then like it does some sort of remote session.
Yeah, just do it over the Wi-Fi. I mean, there's got to be some way of doing that. And I'm not saying that it's
maybe
like, I'm not saying there wouldn't have to be maybe some stripped down action going on as far as how that works or whatever, but don't ask me to put it in a dock that looks like it was made for a Palm Pilot and then tell me to be excited about that. No.
I would like to look at the failure for this to get funded within the context of a couple of other tangentially related initiatives.
Yeah.
I want to ask you if you think this is an indictment from the users on mobile UIs mixing with our desktop UIs. Because let's look at the industry as a whole. GNOME 3 created years ago for touch devices that to this day, no one is using GNOME on.
No.
GNOME continues to modify the GNOME UI to work best on touch. No one uses GNOME on touch. No one. No one does it, but they have built their entire desktop around it. That, to me, in my view, is a fundamental failure.
It is.
Metro, catastrophe. Potentially one of the leading reasons why Balmer's out, because Windows 8 is such a flop. I'm sure it's not the reason, but it's got to be on the list. I mean, it's that level of flopness. It is Vista and me rolled into one big flop. Metro is a total failure, okay?
Yeah.
Unity, we just touched on, had to be rebuilt several times. It never was the one UI to rule them all. They decided, couldn't be done. Got to rebuild.
Oh, yeah. Over and over and over and over and over.
And then we look at Apple, the company that actually sells the most tablets, sells by model the most phones, yet has not done this. And right now is outselling the laptop industry by everyone else.
Exactly. And you're talking about hardware, not just, right.
So I ask you, is this not a message from the user saying, we don't want it. We want our desktop. We don't want this. Isn't that what this is?
I've seen enough just in, not necessarily today's chat room, although I'm sure a lot of you guys feel this way, but in the subreddit and whatnot, to where people are like, they're so detached from mobile to where they They don't want their chocolate with their peanut butter. They don't want those two things mixed together. And I'm one of those people. I have no interest in having my phone on my desktop unless I'm doing something with a ringtone or something. I just don't care.
So when Mark Shuttleworth says things like, "We thought we could leap forward. We thought we could build a time machine."
Yeah, his vision, not ours. So this is where he's making critical mistakes. Is that I know best. Screw you. And I know he's not doing this intentionally, but this is how it comes across to us as users.
Here's what I think it is.
So,
and I could be wrong on this.
Okay.
I think what happened is everybody, well, no, not everybody.
A lot of people.
Closet Mac lovers, closet Apple users watched Apple ascend from nothing to the largest company for a period of time in the United States or whatever the hell it was.
Right.
And along that way, Steve Jobs is quoted as saying, users don't know what they want until you give it to them.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like all of these Apple Kool-Aid drinking developers out there, and I include the GNOME team and I include Shuttleworth among them, drunk that Kool-Aid down and said, well, we can't listen to this feverish pitch feedback we're getting because they don't know what they want. We're the developers.
Right.
We know what they want. We already know what we're going to do. We see the trends. We know what direction things are going. We have to move there. It's our duty for our users. And they think they know better than we do. And meanwhile, the irony of it all is it turns out, years later comes out, Steve Jobs relied heavily on consensus groups.
Yes.
Apple is massive in consumer marketing and testing, but they put everybody under an NDA, and that users don't know what they want bullcrap was a marketing line to make Apple seem magical.
Exactly.
And everybody drunk it up. Everybody bought the marketing from Steve Jobs, and now we as users are suffering it because everybody has been given these grandeurs of God delusions.
I would even expand on that and saying that if you look at, as OS X grew and developed and so on and so forth, the people that were drawn to someone doing their thinking for them latched onto that desktop. And now we have other folks that are trying to mimic that.
Yeah.
There's nobody left. They've already moved on to that mindset because that's what they wanted. Those of us that like to think for ourselves don't care. And so that's what I think Shuttleworth and some of these other folks are missing, is that they're not realizing that there are people, and my wife's one of them, that really wanted that, desktop just handled. They didn't want to deal with it. Those people already latched onto their preferred desktop experience.
The Mac.
Yeah, the Mac, right? Yeah. So for us, why we would have moved on if we wanted that experience. Clearly, we don't. We want to make those choices. We want to configure things. We want to define differential between mobile and desktop.
And I feel like things like the KDE Connect initiative, where KDE is integrating and sharing information with your Android device. Notifications are shared. Information is shared back and forth.
Sure.
But they're each their own thing.
That's how I like it. That's why I use things like I have a text messaging app that literally sends my text messages to my desktop because I chose to add that as an extension.
Yeah.
That's fine.
A big reason why I use Google Voice is so that way I can text message back and forth using the keyboard.
But there was a conscious decision in there not to have it forced down our throats, but for us to install that extension.
And I just and I feel like there's not everyone has drank this Kool-Aid. Like obviously in a large part the KDE camp, while they are working with Plasma Active and a mobile solution, they haven't let this overriding sense of vision that overrides all user feedback take over.
No, KDE and GNOME differ in GNOME quote unquote goes for usability, as they say. They kind of try their vision of usability. They want it to just be minimalist and simple. KDE's all about under the hood, all about control, settings for your settings, manage. And that's why it works for them.
I would add too, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate, but I would add that another thing is when you are buying a convergence device, another word for that device could be called a compromise device, because a device that works as both a phone and a desktop, I don't believe will probably ever be as powerful or as as good as a dedicated phone, or as good as a dedicated tablet, or as good as a dedicated desktop.
I would say not, but I would go on. I would suggest that there is a market for it. I believe there is.
I don't know.
I think I can name 3 or 4 people, but
look at the Asus Transformer. It's like it sold like 800,000.
Well, the implementation sucks though. That's the problem.
Look at the Surface RT. Again, total flop. And it's kind of a convergence device. I know. But the devices that do well,
that's true.
The Samsung tablets, the Apple iPad. The
I
stuff
guess they have defined experiences. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
it's like you know exactly what you're getting. You know exactly what it's done. The battery is built specifically for that task. The screen is built specifically for that task. The size and weight are specific for that function, and that's what that device does.
I think I still differ in that. I think the desire to have a seamless, pleasant experience is there, but I think that the technology, as we're seeing from these devices, isn't quite ready, and of course the dock certainly sends that home.
Let me flip it around for you. So my kids, my 2 older kids, Abby and Dylan, Dylan is the older, they're all about touch, Matt. They're like they are iPad and Android
That's
wizards.
fair.
They can navigate the whole device. They pick it up. I don't, if they want Netflix, they know how to launch Netflix. If they want a game, they know how to do a game. They even know how to do app updates. Like they have totally got this. If I want something, I touch it thing figured out. And I put them down in front of a mouse and keyboard. It's not just a matter of control that's an issue, but there's a conceptual problem of I move this device and it moves that cursor on the screen, and then I can move it or like that. There's
It's
a
like
disconnect.
asking me to use punch cards. I mean, so
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, what? I interface with the computer how?
Right, exactly.
And so I look at this and I think, so they're going to bank 4 or 5 years on touch technology before they ever really seriously sit down at a mouse and keyboard.
That's a real wow.
So you got to wonder, like, maybe they'll be looking at this and going, why would I want, so for them maybe, and by then the technology will advance, maybe convergence will be more of a thing. So,
but it may be a different convergence than what we're seeing now. It may be more based on touch and based on,
Yeah.
I say that's what I'm saying is I think the technology eventually is going to evolve to a point to where it really does feel seamless. You just went from touching that to touching this and to doing, whatever.
I don't know. I'm
It's
sure
hard to say.
they could learn this interface.
Or
but
it could be all voice activated by then.
it just seems to me like, I guess I could see how this is kind of a generational thing too.
And, well, in voice, I still think voice recognition is going to be a thingy. It has to be because there's only so far touch can go.
Sounds awesome.
I mean, it's like, oh, I'm going to be a programmer on my screen. I mean, come on, that's not going to happen.
So,
I
I
think
thought-
you're going to have something there.
I pulled a few good quotes here. Despite 24,000 people backing the idea, some people even did it more than once.
Wow.
Shuttleworth does say that the fact that people aren't willing to stump it up means that he does have to possibly accept that the world isn't ready for the idea yet. He said, it's hard, this is a quote, it's hard to mount a vicious defense against that. If there was a total outpouring of support for the idea, then we'd be making the device.
Yeah.
However, I wonder about this. He says, the level of support for the project certainly surprised a lot of people in the industry, but it wasn't enough as an outsider to get over the hump. But if we had been a mainstream manufacturer and seen that amount of support, the device would be happening for sure.
And that's probably what will end up happening. And again, more power to them. And if people want that dock experience, then hey, go
Well, what
for
if
it.
Samsung or even better? What if if HTC came out and said, we're gonna make an HTC One. The next HTC One is gonna be a convergence device. Essentially, they just wholesale ripped off.
And that
Ubuntu
works
Edge.
because they've already got a brand people know.
Yeah.
They got the HTC One. People know that they know that phone. So it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I trust you guys. Sure,
I
I'm
actually
on
think
board.
you could probably list 2 or 3 more points, but I think that point is the number one point, and what I think that goes back to is a credibility problem with Canonical.
And they also have one other little thing that's going to work in their favor that we did not see with this Ubuntu campaign, and that is a little thing we like to call TV commercials.
Oh.
And compelling
I thought you were
reasons
going to
buy.
say. I thought you were going to say Android.
No, not even just that. I'm just talking about we as geeks live in this world where all of our media comes from other sources. There's an entire population of people out there that still get their stuff from television. That's a medium they can't ignore, and these guys did. And I'm saying that, they show people using it. They're all excited. They're showing, people that have never even heard of such a Ubuntu thing are going to be excited about that.
Yeah.
That's the missing component.
I'll finish up here with the core lesson. This is again from Mark. For me, was that if we want to try again, we should secure substantially more industrial commitment to the concept, just like you were saying.
I agree with that.
Which would essentially cover the base development costs. At which point, you could set a much lower target, 10 or 20 million,
Right.
and give the folks who back the project a very strong signal that they could get the device at cost before it went to the market.
That would be excellent, and that's a great move. And props to Mark for seeing that, and hopefully going to that for recovery. I think that'd be fantastic.
I suppose. I mean, it's still. I feel like in both of those statements, there, he's not fully considering the idea that people just don't want this.
Well, I think if he takes the burden of hassle away from him and puts it on a manufacturer to where they have,
That would
phone
add some
manufacturer.
credibility.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of a smartphone, again, it was creating a solution we didn't even ask for, but it was all about the marketing of it and getting it out there and making it part of the normal. You get a massive amount of marketing dollars behind it in all shapes and forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get people to buy bricks.
And I think if you
touch
could have
pads,
made it,
you know.
and this is just not the reality, and people, because of contracts, people don't fully appreciate this. I think if you could have made this a $300 phone, it also would have exploded.
Subsidizing is going to have to happen if they want
yeah.
people to get this. It just will. That's what they do with the
So
phones.
it's like, I don't feel like it's any one particular thing
No, it's not.
that killed the Ubuntu Edge campaign. It was like cut by 1,000 or whatever they're saying, 1,000 nails or
Right.
whatever.
Paper cuts.
A million, paper cuts by a million evil rusted razors. That
By
kind of
ninjas.
thing. So, looking forward, we'll see where they go with this. At one point, I kind of want Canonical to succeed because I'm just curious to see where this technology could go. If they could really make a powerful device that is functional as a converged phone and desktop, I'd definitely love to at least give it a shot.
Absolutely. And I want to go on record and saying I'm not poo-pooing the idea. I want to see this succeed. I just don't want it to look like ass. That's all I'm saying. I
Yeah.
want it to not suck.
And the technology is just not quite there.
No.
And Canonical, needs to ship some stuff. And so what they've stated is that they're still going to have Ubuntu phones in early 2014. They're going to be back to sort of the original game plan. And here's what's another kind of odd thing about the whole disconnect. And this was even during interviews running up during the campaign. This, like the CEO of Canonical said this, and other folks, that they envision the actual future for Ubuntu Touch to be on repurposed cellular phones that carriers already own, like lower-end devices, and they'll flash Ubuntu. None of them would support conversions. They'd all be rather slow. And in fact, they've even said that they think the bulk of the target for Ubuntu Touch is people who don't want app stores, people don't want any of that stuff. They just want...
Like my mom, actually.
Yeah.
That would actually not only is that a great way to recycle, older phones, but if you can flash that on pretty much not just old Android devices, but also like maybe some old iOS devices as well, because there's a lot of those laying around.
Maybe the community could get that.
Boy, I'll tell you, that actually would probably work, because then ecosystem's really immaterial.
Okay, and I agree, and I think that's
one possibility.
That's a business model that might actually work, right? There's there's good, and as more devices enter the market, more of them won't get sold, more of them will be available.
Right.
Carriers can flash them with a branded experience. It's it's like a dumb smartphone kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then the community will have images available. They can load them on their own devices. It makes that much more possible. Very neat stuff. Total disconnect from this high-end prototype convergence device, 128 gigabytes of storage, latest CPU.
It's painfully practical down here, though.
Yeah, this is really practical. This is actually going to be the use for Ubuntu. And then there's this. And this was
where there was never a need up here, but there's a need down here.
Right.
The people with the flip phones, we got to help these folks. I mean, I'm sorry, but that stuff's hurting.
It's just odd. It's just a little bit of I just thought it was like an impedance mismatch between the goal of the project, of the Indiegogo campaign, and the actual market reality for Ubuntu Touch.
Imagine old, refurbished Sprint phones that really, and then you ting them up, right?
Yeah.
You ting them up,
Ting
right?
could have the Ting operating system on there. I mean,
economical phone, economical
and
data plan, oh my God.
I don't think you or I would ever use those devices. I don't think anybody in our audience.
I would as a backup phone, not full time, but
right. And if you're somebody where a phone is not that important of a thing to you, it's like it's a phone.
If you're a flip phone user, you're thinking, okay.
If you're our folks, if you're anybody in our extended family, really.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's
they don't want that.
Just it's occasional Google search, maybe email, things like that.
Yeah. I was at a family event just last weekend, and Android came up. And somebody in the family says, Android? What's that? And somebody else immediately chimes up, Android. That's the operating system where all the apps are free. Right? No, that's not Android.
But this is the marketing perception that you got. Yeah,
these are the people. These carriers are just gonna, come into our arms. We've got something for you. Right?
TV people, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see where they go.
Because they're not researching the phones before they buy them. They're buying them based on, ooh, hey, that's cool.
So I actually think, long run, all PR is good PR, really.
Yeah.
People are talking about this.
Oh, and you talk about free press releases, even in mainstream, people will be all over that.
Yep. And I think it's going to drive more interest to the touch images when they come available for more devices. And now that's going to kind of be Canonical's focus instead of building. I mean, this would have become their obsession for a year.
Imagine if they crowdsourced this. People have been all over it.
Now they're going to focus on making, I would assume, they're going to focus on making Ubuntu Touch work great on established devices that a lot of us already have.
Yeah.
And the Benny there is, as users, if they make an HTC One Ubuntu Touch image, you bet your arse I'm going to load that.
Sure.
I don't have to go buy a new device.
Yeah, there's
I'm
no
ready
real
to go.
commitment other than time and just testing it out.
It's great for developers that can make apps with their existing hardware. It might actually be better long-term for the project if it's not locked up in this elite hardware.
I like that. And I think the community definitely be much more behind it and more excited about it, really.
Yeah.
It's no longer about the hardware and, what am I actually getting?
Right, it's about what can I put it on.
Yeah.
What devices do I have? What extra devices do I have? I think
the email setup we were talking about before, Geary versus
MailPile.
MailPile, it's that back-end experience where you're in control. Look which succeeded, there it is.
And hardware is, sort of a new territory for Canonical, whereas software has been, that's their bag.
It's where they shine.
So now they're going to focus on software. And we've seen some interesting thing with the way they can use Android drivers. I think there's some real potential there, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, good luck to them.
We'll keep an eye on it. All right, Matt.
Cool.
Well, that's the Linux Action Show's look at the end of the Ubuntu Edge campaign. It's time for /Etsy, and this week's segment is brought to you by Untangled.com. Go to untangled.com/last. You can get yourself a free download of the Untangle ISO. Click right there in the middle, but also if you use the promo code LAST20 when you check out, if you're getting yourself some Untangle services, you'll save 20% off a year subscription. Now, this subscription will get you some of the world's most superior content filtering and management, as well as some awesome tools. And you can also check out their appliances while you're over there. They've got some great appliances. You put these in your rack, like the U150 is one I've deployed, probably a dozen of U150s.
Nice.
Put them in the rack, silent, nice performance, easy to use, wonderful UI. And I actually had enough in production at one point where I would keep one in my office that I would use for testing.
Sure.
And I would just take it when somebody would have a firewall die on them, because a lot of times I go into clients and they'd have like these custom built PCs doing all their firewall stuff. And it has these little power supplies. Power supply pops, firewall goes down. I come in with the Untangle appliance, slide it in, Bob's your uncle. And the great thing is, the Untangle UI is so easy that even if you're not a network expert, within about 10 minutes or so, you're going to be up and running. And you
Absolutely. You can have an intern doing this for
Yeah.
you. I mean, totally. We really could. I mean,
You really could.
I had my wife playing with it when we had the sample box. It was fantastic.
The UI makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
You can check
it's
it out. Go to untangle.com/last and click on that download for the ISO. Load it on your own rig.
That's right.
See what we're talking about.
It's not super geeky. It's fun to use. Good stuff.
Thanks to Untangle for sponsoring /Etsy. So we've talked about BitMessage a few times on the show in sort of bits and pieces of get it? BitMessage, bits and pieces. Lots of interest as of late because of a lot of the security issues around the NSA spying. In fact, I think maybe the most public announcement was recently from Grokla. PJ announced.
That was a big deal.
That was a big deal. And Grokla has been an amazing resource for the community. I think a lot of us think of Grokla in the same sentence as SCO. Right? Remember how PJ
SCO
was,
and also DVD encryption. That was another one.
Yeah.
That was my go-to article for a lot of people.
But the truth is that Grokla has been a resource way, 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 way beyond just that. So it's kind of a big deal. In fact, there was a really good Slashdot opinion piece that was ran saying that Grokla shutting down is a huge deal, and I kind of tend to agree. And essentially, what it boils down to is the reasons that PJ state are that she can't trust her communications platform anymore, and that she believes that that kind of loss of confidentiality hinders her style of business so much that she cannot continue.
And I agree with that statement. Where I would disagree somewhat with her statement, however, is the implementation. She's operating under the understanding that email was ever secure. Even before all the NSA stuff, it's a postcard going through. Yeah,
when
the mail,
did we? When did we all of a sudden think we had privacy on the internet? Because I remember when the internet first came around,
people were all paranoid about it.
Yeah, like everything you do online is public. I will remember how nobody would shop online because everything you did online was public.
It was literally it was Amazon, I think, that sent everything full tilt for everybody.
So it is interesting. You're right. That's a great point. And also I think it's worth noting that PJ has tried to shut down Grokla in the past.
I think she's maybe just ready to move on. And understandably, she's been doing this a long time.
When you read through this post, it does seem like an extremely personal issue for her.
Sure.
And either way, she's bringing attention to a very important issue. And I think that's what I want to focus on. Now, she has suggested there's other options like Colab. I do not recommend that. Colab, there's nothing inherently more secure about Colab other than they're awesome people using great software outside the U.S.
Right.
But
that, if anything, makes them more of a target.
They're outside the U.S. They're outside the U.S. We monitor, not we, our government monitors everything that happens outside the U.S. So just keep that in mind. So there's things you can bolt on, which we're going to talk about in future episodes to email to make them more secure, like GPG. But these are all bolted on solutions, and they don't get away from metadata tracking and problems like that. Right?
Other pattern. Yeah,
exactly. So enter BitMessage. Now, BitMessage is not a perfect solution.
No.
But think of BitMessage as a peer-to-peer solution that is one of the many options working right now to replace email. It's open source. BitMessage is a P2P communications protocol used to send encrypted messages to another person or to many subscribers. It's decentralized. It's trustless, meaning that you need to not inherently trust any entities like a root certificate or authority. It uses strong authentication, which means the sender of the message cannot be spoofed, and it aims to hide non-content data like the sender and receiver of messages, so you don't have the metadata problem.
Right.
So passive eavesdroppers like the NSA aren't going to be able to track that. And BitMessage kind of sounds like Bitcoin, because the system behind BitMessage shares some designs from Bitcoin. It has a central database, I guess you could call it, or a blockchain if you want to call it, that for 2 days, everybody downloads everybody's messages. That obviously only scales so far, so that
there's limitations there for sure.
Right, but the way it works is if Matt sends something to me over BitMessage, he sends it with a cryptological question. I have the answer. When I download all of the bit messages, only I have the answer, so only I can extract that. So since everybody gets everything, it's all just noise unless you have the right answer, and then you can pull those individual things out. Now, as BitMessage moves forwards, they're looking at breaking things off into channels. So an address would be tagged with a channel, so then maybe these 5 million people will be using this channel, these 5 million people. So
it's beginning the evolution already.
Yeah, and it kind of makes it a little easier maybe to track somebody down if you know which channel to look
to a degree, yeah. But it still it can be as anonymous or not anonymous as you really want it to be.
And BitMessage is in extremely heavy development. In fact, there was a great post, and people have kind of argued back and forth. It's a thread if you want to read it. Somebody posted in the BitMessage forum my security analysis of BitMessage, and he pointed out, now he is making a competing project. There's a few competing projects out there, but he pointed out a few concerns around BitMessage. I think people should look at BitMessage how I treat BitMessage. BitMessage is very early days. You are using this if you want to help encourage development of an open source secure communications platform. And you are acknowledging that it is early days and there could be some sort of inherent design flaw or issue in it. This last weekend, actually it was like, what was it, Wednesday? The 21st. When was the 21st, Matt?
I want to say Wednesday or Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. It started around then. Somebody began testing the BitMessage network, sending out messages. In fact, I wonder if I pull up BitMessage, I might still have it in here, saying a vulnerability has been found in the BitMessage network. And they sent this out to lots and lots and lots of people. See if, here it is. Here it is right here. Here's the message that I got, and just about every BitMessage user got it. It says, BitMessage has several potential security issues, including a broken proof of work function and potential private key leaks. Full details. And then here's a link. Now, it's not clickable by default, so you got to go the little extra route.
Which is good, I think. That's a feature.
Scam message. This was a phishing attack. This was somebody testing the Bitcoin network because when you register an address, it publicly broadcasts your address to the network. That way you can receive messages.
A communications platform is successful when people are trying to scam you. Telephone's a great example of that with boiler rooms. Email with this.
And they're testing it. And you think about it. So here's the thing. If they can send out these messages to a few people, and then you click that link, when you click that link, you de-anonymize yourself because what this guy did, and he posted it up on the web, is here's his message. So as soon as I saw that, I thought, this is probably a scam. I clicked it.
Right.
I'm on a Linux box. Yeah, I'm running with user rights. I figured, what's he going to do? I want to see what he does, right? So I clicked it. Nothing happened. You got a 500 error, but that doesn't mean he wasn't logging it. So he posted over on Pastebin. He said, this message, it was also posted at SecurePostNet. He says, all right, the messages sent out a few days ago are starting to expire now. It's time for everyone to learn the purpose of this. As many of you guessed, it is indeed a BitMessage address to IP address mapper. He said he sent this out to sort of test the network. He said all BitMessage addresses are public and can be read from your message.dat file using a small script. So he was able to figure out a lot of public addresses when they were broadcast to the network and sent out spam. That's really nothing unusual. Then people clicked the link and they de-anonymized themselves. And here he posted, like, here's a bunch of people's addresses and their web browser and their desktop.
Wow.
Right. Nothing too horrible.
No, nothing. Still, but it does bring up a good point.
And it shows you that the BitMessage network is in the stage where people are banging on it intentionally to see where it breaks, so then they can fix it. And you will be a member of that club if you use it.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And how much worst case scenario? How far can it go? Yeah. So
one of the neat things about BitMessage is the subscribe system. They've got broadcast messages that you can subscribe to, sort of like a mailing list. And here's an example. I've linked in the show notes. They have privacy mailing lists. They have Linux mailing lists, politics mailing lists, BitMessage, Bitcoin. So I subscribe to the Linux one, and here's my BitMessage client. And you can see that it looks just kind of like a basic email.
It really
client,
does,
right? You got your inbox. You got your sent items. Here's my addresses. I can generate a new address on the fly. So you see I've generated an address for LAS, Unfiltered, TechSnap, and my own private one. Then I have a subscriptions tab. So you can see I subscribe to the politics address, the Linux address, and the BitMessage news and announcements address. So they can broadcast to that one address. My machine will go out there and get it. It has address book functionality, it has blacklist functionality, it has network status functionality. Really straightforward. When you compose a new message, you can select from your address book who you want to send as, who you want it to go to, and then you compose a message and it sends. BitMessage takes a couple of minutes to send it, and BitMessage takes a few minutes to receive messages. One of the things unique about BitMessage is when you send something, your computer has to do a little proof of work.
Okay.
This is a little cryptology the computer has to do that's essentially intentionally costing your computer CPU cycles.
I was going to say there's got to be some overhead there.
Sure. Yeah, because it's doing some complicated math using Python.
Yeah.
And that's the disadvantage to BitMessage because it makes it very hard to work on mobile.
Right. It's definitely going to be an
But
issue.
it's the advantage, too, in that if there is inherent cost and time for every message you send, if I'm sending 10, 20 messages,
I
it's
see
not
where you're going with
too
this.
bad.
Right.
But if I want to spam the network, that's a lot of cost.
Although,
Yes.
I was going to say, what if someone went botnet with it? I mean,
Yeah, and they
you know,
distributed
yeah,
it a
because
lot.
that's the only way. That's the only way I could see it. But that still is a barrier to entry. That
We'll see what
does,
happens,
yeah,
yeah.
it does minimize somewhat.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
And most people that are getting the stuff aren't going to just click on anything willy nilly. They're usually pretty well informed. So
We'll see if it really helps with spam. I mean,
Yeah,
at least
that's a good
see right
point.
now, like an email, essentially once you have your server set up, it costs you nothing to send it.
right.
But if you had to have like this massive amount of CPU power to really spam people, it might not be practical.
And even at a botnet, someone's going to notice, wow, my machine's running like crap. You know. Yeah.
I find so the advantages to BitMessage are email like,
Yes.
lots of neat functionality, totally secure, and I have been messaging with a lot of people, and I have found, especially people outside the U.S., they just like having a system that's not monitored. They're not
Oh,
telling
yeah.
me anything that's like super secret.
No, it's just a little bit like closing the blinds versus having your blinds open with the neighbor with binoculars looking at you.
Yeah.
It's not like they haven't seen it before. I mean, they probably have whatever you got, but at the same time, you don't want them peeking at you.
What's the what was that celebrity from 30 Rock who left this horrible voicemail to his daughter?
Oh God! I know
Right,
what you're talking about.
Adam Baldwin.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin.
That's
Alec Baldwin.
awesome.
Alec. So it's like that. Like you're not gonna speak your mind and cuss somebody out or
No.
say something that you want on the record when you think it's being monitored. You're gonna
Right.
act differently. You're gonna behave differently. You'll just adjust yourself a little bit and
You become more inhibited and less.
it's just and it's uncomfortable to even worry about that.
It just feels weird.
Yeah.
It just feels wrong.
Right.
Somehow inherently.
And I think, while BitMessage might not be the final solution, maybe there'll be some sort of vulnerability here. I love that it's open source. I love that it's getting some traction and that even today it's providing at least a better secure platform than what email is providing.
I agree with that.
And at the end of the day, what I really, 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 really love about BitMessage is I get essentially full-fledged email functionality, secure, acts like email, does all the stuff I like from email,
You're not having to retrain your brain how to use the client. That's kind of nice.
and I don't have to set up an email server.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No kidding.
It's as hard. There's no mail server. I just set up the
Right.
client. I have an address, and the P2P network handles all of the message delivery. I don't have to have an SMTP server.
that's
I don't have to
nice.
have a spam filter. I don't have to go through mail route. I don't have
don't
to
do
worry
any of
about my
that.
reverse MX records.
Right.
Nothing. I just set up the client, and I go. Now, right now, it might not build for you on Arch. There's a Qt dependency that's
Yeah,
not working.
I had a problem with it. Yeah.
There is a PPA available for the Ubuntu, and it's working just fine.
Okay.
The maintainer in the Arch repo is like kind of in flux. They're working on the Qt.
How'd
thing.
you get it going? I mean, like,
Well, I've had it for a while. I can't do the
Okay,
latest update.
okay,
Yeah. In
okay.
fact, if I try, it would just fail
Just
to build.
break on you, okay.
I think maybe if I went like in the package build script and said skip the
well,
Qt
I
dependency.
think when I looked into it, there was even a standalone Python run that I could do just from.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I might look into that.
in the comments, there's some people who
Run
have
something in a
a
single directory.
solution,
Yeah.
and so I imagine it'll be solved sooner than later. But
I was really stoked about it. It's like, oh man, I really want to give this a whirl.
they've been working on some new features pretty rapidly, so it is nice to have
Yeah.
the latest version. So that's why I would recommend getting it from a repo if you can.
Sure.
You can actually just check out from the Git repo.
That's what
Put
I
it in a
think
folder
that's what
and
I'll
then
do.
just run it.
Yeah, and
You-
that's what I used to do with
yeah.
Webcam Studio. I'll probably just do that with
Yeah,
this as well.
you can like there's a Python thing in there. You just run that.
Yeah, I'll just do that. Make a launcher. Call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll need the latest 0.35 for the channel support, but the channel support's neat because you can have like a Linux channel, we could have like a
Ooh,
Jupyter
I love
Broadcasting
that.
channel. It's like a mailing list in its own secluded, like targeted
And it's
area.
not being buried in my spam folder. You know?
Right, yeah.
Nice.
And it has that advantage too of where it's all a bunch of early adopters who are excited about using new systems. So everybody's really excited. I was messaging back and forth last weekend with Adam Curry because Adam Curry, host of the No Agenda Show, was looking into this, and he said, this would be really great, but one of the things that's missing is a webmail UI. Well, it turns out there is actually people working besides MailPile on a webmail UI that would sit on top of BitMessage because this program I'm showing you is just like Thunderbird, right? This is one client of possibly many clients. Because it's a program that sits on top of the protocol in the network.
Right.
So you can have a webmail interface to this. You could potentially have a mobile interface to this at some point. You could have Thunderbird work with this. You could have MailPile work
Perhaps
with
potentially even something for the terminal. You know?
this. Yeah. Oh
Totally.
yeah. Oh yeah. So it is very exciting. It's very early.
Are we at attachment level yet? Do we have the ability to attach files?
If you do base 64 encoding, you put that big old encoding in the message and send it.
It totally defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. I kind of wondered about that, but I figured I'd put that out there.
That would be great for secure file
If there was
transfers,
a
though.
way to, I mean, it probably requires something additional.
What
to it.
people are doing. So the problem is, I have had people that want to send me confidential information.
Sure.
And they have to email me first and say, "Hey, what's your GPG key?
Right.
Hey, I want to send you this thing." at least with BitMessage, they can contact me and say, hey, I've got an encrypted file. Download it from my private FTP server. Here's the link. And they can send that in BitMessage and not have to worry about being monitored.
Right,
so at least there's that.
That's kind of nice, yeah. Instead of saying, hey, here's all my passwords and whatnot, through the...
And I put a contact BitMessage address for the Linux Action Show if you want to send us your feedback via BitMessage. I check this more than I check email because my email, the noise to signal ratio is so high. Whereas this is like, it's people that are, it's actual people, it's, it's...
And people that get it, and I imagine that someone brought
viewers.
up BitSync. Yeah, no kidding, right? BitSync and, oh my God, you blend them together, that kind of, that could be kind of cool.
So anyways, BitMessage is an up-and-coming open-source messaging product that's really aiming to replace email. I don't know if it's going to work for mom and dad who are married to their AOL email account.
Yeah.
There just might be no help for them.
No, I mean, it's hard enough getting them. It was living hell to get my mom onto the email she uses now from her original ISP one.
Yeah.
So,
I have the same problem.
Yeah, so it was a real nightmare.
But, maybe if BitMessage continues to evolve, we might see more mail clients that sort of add it as an account option. Like when you launch Thunderbird, you've got Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail, BitMessage.
Yeah, I think that's going to be I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Because that's where RSS failed. Totally different animal, totally different purpose. But again, that's where it really dropped short. Is the standalone clients versus a blended client.
Yeah,
that's where the marriage really works.
I'm enjoying it. I look at it as a frontiersman, and I think you should take that same approach. Don't bet the farm on it, but it is something we need so badly. And it's open source. It's got good traction. And it needs more people using it and banging on it. Just getting more volume on the network would be beneficial for this project. So go check out BitMessage, kick the tires, and then send us a BitMessage note.
Yeah.
And one of the other things, and kind of interesting, is you see here in the sent messages.
Okay. Your sent tab there. Yeah.
You can see these ones have been acknowledged of receipt, and these ones are waiting on acknowledgement.
So it's almost like a read receipt.
Yeah.
Oh man, see that's the
built in.
In a lot of webmail clients, you don't have that. So
some people think this could be a potential vulnerability because if you send somebody something and wait for an acknowledgement, combine it with other detection they're thinking about enabling you the ability to turn off the acknowledgement.
That I would appreciate because I don't always necessarily want that.
But it's kind of neat because the audience says, "Oh, I can see Chris never received my message," and so they'll send it again. Yeah, and honestly, my volume can be so high sometimes I don't get a chance to see everything.
I miss that with a certain email client.
Yeah. So it's a pretty cool system, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see it coming down to mobile app soon, maybe like with some sort of hosted program that you connect to or something like that.
Oh, and then I smell a business model, really.
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, because truly.
And I'll be watching MailPile closely. And, I saw a lot of people in response to PJ when she shut down Grokla. There was a lot of people that said, well, what about BitMessage?
Right. But I think in PJ's instance, I think that was it was the final straw on a much larger thing.
Not enough people yet are using BitMessage to make it practical, but the Linux Action Show audience can help with that problem. It's
true.
We have the power.
We have the technology.
We do. All right, Matt, last Linux Action Show's look at BitMessage. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But, Matt, why don't we read some emails before we get out of here?
Let's do it.
I want to help Jimmy out. He sent us in a desperate one. He says, okay, now that I've got your attention with the subject line, which the subject line was Linux, the most insecure, defaced OS in the world. He's grabbed our attention.
Good job on that. I like that.
Success, sir.
Yes.
I love the show, and I've been watching for about a year now. I share your material with several of my friends and family. Good man. Recently, several of my friends attended a prep class for security and Net Plus. Near the beginning of the seminar, the instructor says, Linux guys always think they're more secure than anyone else, but they're wrong. Linux is the most insecure and defaced OS out there. And, of course, this guy's probably a Windows guy, enough said. But he says, my buddies are new to Linux because I convinced them to make the switch, and they returned very concerned, mainly because this guy is supposed to be a pro. I thought that I would get your guys, and perhaps maybe Alan too, to help clear the air about open source and Linux. Granted, had I been in the room, I'd have called this guy out to make him reference his claims, but that said...
That's how you nail someone like that.
Yeah. I can't find anything out there that support his claims. Can you assist? By the way, he's got his mom, dad, wife, sister-in-law, little sister, 2 of 3 brothers, countless friends, an employer, and several sysadmins switched to Linux now.
The only examples of quote-unquote proof that I've seen to support that claim was issued by a joint operation, Microsoft Best Buy, specifically. They were training their techs with it. And,
so I think it was also Microsoft and HP or another Microsoft partnership years ago, and Microsoft used to actually publicly harp on this. They've retracted from that, but they still pump it into the training materials. They still pump it through direct messaging. what they will do is they will take Red Hat Enterprise's security disclosures for a year, and they will put that list up against Microsoft Windows security disclosures for a year.
Yeah.
And the Red Hat one will be 5-10 pages long. The Microsoft one will be 3 pages long.
Right.
And they will say, well, look at the number of vulnerabilities on Red Hat compared to the number of vulnerabilities on Windows. And actually, believe it or not, the list will be longer on Red Hat. But the reason is because Red Hat is doing an announcement and a patch for every Firefox, every component on that system. Every application is getting issued a security update by Red Hat. So in sheer volume, Red Hat looks higher.
So basically, it's operating system versus complete system.
Exactly.
Windows operating system versus a whole ton of applications and then the OS. Yeah.
Bingo. And so what Microsoft will do is they will just use, because it's a real easy number, 300 exploits on Red Hat, 120 on Windows. Basic math, look at that. Red Hat's more vulnerable, and then they will just champion that. And then you've also got the fact that Apache is the dominant web server. So there's a lot more instances of Apache out there. So there's probably more Apache servers that potentially get quote-unquote defaced. Mainly because anybody in serious production use doesn't use IIS, right?
No, they really don't.
Yeah,
I don't know anyone.
There's
instances of Microsoft using Linux.
Yeah, IIS is good for parking domains because you get a Microsoft Windows license, you can spin up 1,000 IIS servers with a script in an afternoon.
It's super easy.
Yeah. IIS is great for like an internal intranet where you need SharePoint and maybe you got 100 users.
Sure.
Maybe that's good. If you go above 100, you might want to go beyond IIS.
Yeah.
And so the reality is that they are kind of distorting the information to paint a picture.
Well, and here's and all these things can be debated. Here's how you completely just destroy the entire argument. You simply point out, hey, by the way, your family members and whatnot, they're using Windows. What's their virus malware experience been like? Versus the OS 10 or Linux user, where it's like, I'm sorry, how many did you get? Squat?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh yeah. It's such when you
it's
talk
not a
about
debate
that,
anymore.
it's not. All the fake antivirus, scan your computer, run this antivirus. New virus has been detected, call tech support. Doesn't affect any other operating system. I mean, let's be practical about this. And don't kid yourself, that stuff doesn't affect servers too, because sysadmins get busy, they fire up Internet Explorer that's built into every Windows server, and they go look up something, and they end up getting an infection on their Windows
pulling
server.
a trigger on a gun.
It happens.
Bam.
Windows, just because Windows is run on the server does not mean that these same exploits that hit desktop users doesn't affect the server operating system. It's the same damn core, it's the same OS. They just put a different paint coat on it.
And so by basically vacuum packing all the religious nonsense out of it, just looking at it from a very practical point of view, I run Linux. I don't have malware problems. End of discussion.
I mean, the reality is you can put a Windows box on the internet and you can put a Linux box on the internet, and mistakenly so. I have Linux boxes that I've put on the internet that when DSL was a new thing and and it was just rolling out to our town for the first time, and one of my friends got DSL. I have a server that is that old. I don't even know how old that is, Matt. I mean, that's got to be more than
that's really old.
11, 12 years ago. Just a Linux box plugged in the back of a DSL modem. It's still online. Never had a compromise. You could not do that with a Windows box. Not for 12 years. That would not happen. That is not possible.
And they're going to say, well, are you saying that Linux can't get viruses and malware? Of course, anything that executes code can do something bad.
There you go.
I want to be very clear on that.
That's the math.
But the actual numbers of instances happening, it's pretty night and day. So
yeah,
I can give you a command right now to wipe your hard drive in Linux, but that doesn't mean it's happening every day. That's all I'm saying.
I think it really, like the chat room's pointing out, really comes down to management.
A lot of it, yeah. No, that's certainly true.
Yeah.
And from an IT perspective, from a Joe Blow user's perspective, it still does, because but at the same time, Microsoft's operating system says, by God, you should run as administrator, because that's what the big kids do. They out the door already start out stupid.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
I want to play a video clip. We'll see how far we get, because I know we're running a little long, but Rob sent in an email. So something we touched on in the elementary OS review was the fact that they got rid of the minimize button.
Right.
That struck a chord with a lot of people.
Yeah,
like we heard from several folks. They're like, yeah, I'm doing that too.
Well, it's like I run Plank as my dock, and I can minimize from the dock because I don't care. Something like that. As long as I have another means of minimizing without,
So were you surprised by the amount of people who are like, I'm taking the no minimize button challenge this week? Like, we got like threads in the subreddit.
I respect it. That's that's cool. That's cool.
Rob sent in Rob sent in a video capture of his KDE desktop. First of all, I just had to reset my KDE desktop.
Yeah, and boy, did you have fun with that.
And so I've lost all of my config, and so I'll show you guys.
Ouch.
There it is right there. So it's a very stock KDE desktop right now.
Yeah.
All my tweaks are gone. However, after watching Rob's video here, I think I'm going to get a few ideas. So I'm going to play a little bit of it. We'll see how far we get, because it's a little long, but it's interesting.
Real
good stuff.
Quick little thing here. I got thinking after your last LAS where you were talking about the elementary OS, and the thing came up about no minimize button, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And that got me thinking that, well, what would it be like without one? So what alternatives are there? So I did a little experimenting. I'm using KDE, so I didn't feel like downloading and installing another desktop to try this out, and KDE is flexible enough I can easily do it. So you can see I went down to one button, just the close button. Not even sure I really need it, but it's there. And opened up some programs here, and the thing is I have multiple. We normally will minimize things, and if I have another program open, I want to do something else and minimize it. And with Linux, I think we're kind of programmed to doing that from the bad old days of Windows and Windows 95, or wherever it started with having a minimize button. With Linux, we have all these workspaces. We can have as many as we want.
That's the sweet spot. He's going to show us his workspace
It's
setup.
so easy to switch between them. So what I've done here is pretty much that. I put a bunch of programs in.
It's interesting. He's kind of done the Unity setup. So here's his multiple desktops.
Real easily jump between them. Do pretty much whatever I want to do with them.
And he goes on to say that with multiple desktops and things like that, he'll just leave the application running. Doesn't really need the minimize. He just either needs to close it or open the windows, and then when he fills that workspace, he switches to another workspace.
And I think that works. I think if you're willing to make that change in behavior, it's perfectly functional.
Yeah.
I'm not. But a lot of people are, and that's not. I'm not saying that's derogatory against not.
No,
having
I'm kind of there with you too.
But I'm lazy, and that's just what I do, and I won't complain about it because it's a personal choice, so it's okay.
One last plug for the Linux Action Show email wiki. If you guys go to linuxactionshow.reddit.com and want to get involved in our email wiki over there, it's a blank slate. We need people to own it.
Yes,
and I'd love it to be a living community reference, so that way you have friends or maybe coworkers who want to roll their own email server. You can point them at this. We have people who write into the show in the future. We can point them at this.
Definitely.
We can, if we want to do updated topics on this, all the information we do can go into this. I want it to be a really great repository. So if you guys would like to help us, go to linuxactionshow.reddit.com and click on the wiki tab and start working. There's basically all positions are available.
Nice. Yeah, it's all hands on deck, folks. Yeah. Let's get busy.
All right, Matt, where should people find you throughout the week?
As always, you can find me at facebook.com/MattHarleyPublic.
Yep. And also on Linux Unplugged.
That's right.
We'll be doing that Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. Yep. I don't know if we'll have any more following thoughts on the Edge stuff. Kind of depends if it strikes us.
Yeah.
I want to try tomorrow to do a real fancy-free, because we had a lot of stuff we had to cover last week.
Yeah, we did.
Packed.
And so now we're a little more
It was too
free-flowing.
It was last week was too structured.
Yep,
it was too much of a real show. And we gotta slow it down and screw off a little more. So that'll probably be on tomorrow's Linux Unplugged. You can join us live at 2, or if you can't join us live, it'll be available for download Monday later on in our evenings, probably your mornings, depending on where you're at.
If you've never been to a live streaming event for the big show, you will find that this is a lot of what happens in the big show will be happening on Linux Unplugged. So.
Yep. And I'm thinking we'll be trying out the Mumble stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, because
on.
Who knows now?
Who knows? Who knows?
This KDE setup, it's gone. It's gone.
Hey, you got the gnome with the map. I mean, come on.
That's true. I might stick with the maps. That's true. All right, Matt. Well, I want to remind folks they can email us, linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or pop that contact link at the top of the website, or start a thread in our subreddit, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. And then I encourage you to join us right back here on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. UTC at jblive.tv, so you can participate in our awesome live IRC room, hang out with us in between the breaks, and chillax.
Chillax.
Yep. And
chillaxing like chillaxing.
We did a little pre-show gaming.
It did.
We actually delayed the beginning of the show so that way Chris could play video games, but it was good.
It was an important thing to do.
It was good. It was good.
And
I think I've got you scratched. You want to scratch in a little game?
Yeah, no, I've got Steam installed. Manjaro it's a real tough process, but I was able to click the icon in Manjaro and run it. I'm sorry, I'm just throwing that out there to Ubuntu folks that still have to install a deb. But anyway, tell me what's easy. I'll show you easy.
Getting controversial.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But yeah, no, I'm kind of liking it. I got a wish list of games going on. So
cool. Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. So these are missiles. Let's just stop them.
Okay.
But I did not stop them. Oh shit! Oh shit! How do you feel about spiders?
No, I don't feel them at all. I want them over there, away.
I got a problem then. Jumps down on the ground and runs off under the stairs. It's under the stairs over there. And I think I got a little bit, but I don't know if I got enough to kill it.
See, at least you're actually killing it. My wife, you know, I love her to tears, but
Look at the goosebumps, man. Look at
oh
the
yeah, they're
goosebumps.
totally coming up. She'll see a spider, and I will literally get a phone call. Ah, spider! in the
Yeah,
walkie!"
yeah. All right, Matt. Let's do the news.
It's like, and you know, I use all these desktops. So if I'm rapping on them, it's because I use them. I'm not just talking out of my backside. I literally use multiple distributions, multiple desktops. I speak from experience. Cool. All right. Are we good to go?
Sure.
Sure.
Sure, sure.
None of this Balmer silliness.
Are you ready to go? I think you're ready to go.
Oh, shit, sure.
All right, let's do it.